Let me try that again. Oh hey. All right, let's have a look at what we're doing. What we're doing tech wise. Can you see that chat? I think you can. If I angle this slightly more over the bookcase, move the gum out of the way, then yeah, great. Look, the America flag's still up. It's up. It's up. We'll tear it down at the we'll tear it down at the end of the stream, I think, symbolically, but also because I've literally had this flag up since I started recording, or even before I started recording the Thomas Sowell video, which was like fucking ages ago. When was it? It was like November. It's been 3 months, basically, I think. 3 months of having this fucking thing. The Pledge of Allegiance. Do you guys I don't even know the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. You know, what else is there? What else is there? You know, I feel weird not having headphones on. It feels really weird. It feels really unstreamy. Okay, so what the fuck are you all talking about then? Let me have a little look. Three months of greatness. Yeah, unfortunately, I promised to make a part 3. And to the republic for which it stands. And for the public to, yeah, okay, for the republic for which it stands. That's good. I think the, yeah, I like pledging allegiance to the republic for which it stands more than I do to the United States of America. The flag is ours, guys. The flag is ours. We can reclaim it, maybe. Tom Sowell videos. You really want more Tom Sowell videos. I find it hard to believe. I'm not in a space right now where I can think about making another Tom Sowell video. Although I did I have kind of written part of the next one already, but I'm not in a like, I'm like, after my first one I remember being like, right, fuck that for a bit. And then yeah, I'm kind of similar now. I'm kind of hoping that I can make it a bit shorter even than the first one. But there's some remaining stuff. There's unfinished business, guys. There's unfinished business because Tom Sowell has this whole thing about knowledge and like expertise in the state, which is actually very much up my street. And because I wrote a book about that, about like knowledge and economists and the state and everything. This one, The Econocracy, right? I wrote that like almost 10 years ago, but Sowell has a kind of perspective that overlaps somewhat with my perspective, but it's also like very much about well, how free markets harness knowledge the most effectively, more so than anything else. Whereas, obviously, I think that's a little bit more. I think it's the point to be made is a little bit more subtle than the one that Sowell makes. But some of his stuff, I mean, if you look at I think his first book or his first major book, Knowledge and Decisions, is like probably the better one out of his books. It like is the most academic and makes the most sense. So there's stuff to talk about in there, and there's stuff about the legal system that I need to grapple with. I don't know. I wonder if Legal Eagle will be able to help me. I'm probably not on his radar. Write a video about Bitcoin and gambling. You know, I actually read. We read in my book club. The Heretic's Guide to Global Finance by Brett Scott, which is a very old book that was written as a guide to infinite regress, dividing by zero. So it's an old book which is a guide to well, you know, believe it or not, it is a Heretic's Guide to Global Finance, guys. This book called The Heretic's Guide to Global Finance. But we read this, but then I emailed him, and he said he'd be interested in chatting to me, but he has this book as well, which is much more recent. 2022, Cloud Money, Cash Cards, Crypto, and the War for Our Wallets. So, yeah, maybe I'll speak to him. Who knows? Who knows? Oh, you're reading The Econocracy? Oh. Thanks. Oh yeah, you guys should buy that book. I don't like I won't get any money from it, I can assure you, but I guess you'll have to buy it. Or you can find other places to get things like that. I think Brett Scott's really busy. I'd like to speak to him, though. Hello, magical girl. Trump will take the UK with Greenland and Canada. Well, then I'll have to keep the flag up, won't I? I'll have to keep the flag up. You would hesitate to call crypto money? Yeah, I mean, it's so volatile, isn't it, that I wouldn't say it really keeps its value. But I suppose that does apply to some other currencies, like Latin American currencies historically, right? And other countries which have like quite weak money systems and weak currencies. I would say that that's true of others. So, but crypto, I agree. Like, it's not, it's not routinely used for many transactions outside of like the dark web and the type of things that you do there. So, I don't really think it is commonly held as like, what is it? A unit of account. It's not a good unit of account. It's not a good store of value. Arguably, it's a good medium of exchange, but really, who accepts it? It's getting more common, but it isn't used as currency, right? Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, Hanif. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Get my book stocked in every library in the state of North Carolina. Well, wait a minute, guys. There's a more recent book I have. 1 second, which is coming out in like March, I think. Oh, this one. Now this is just by me, and it's also more recent. 8 chapters on why we're getting poorer. It's like 8 YouTube videos. So if you like YouTube videos, you might like this. Anyway, I'll stop advertising all my stuff. This isn't Philosophy Tube. But yeah, anyway, what do you guys want to talk about with the Soul video? Very glad to have you won't learn that from reading drop in the video, by the way. Someone said they liked the meta-analysis bit. I'm glad. I almost deleted that. I was like, man, I'm really like, this is mad. Like, I'm going into way too much depth here. I think it was about as dense as a video can be on YouTube. I think I'm gonna reel it back a bit in terms of the level of detail. I know people like that, but also some people don't, and I think that retention, not viewer retention, like the YouTube Mr. Beast stuff. I mean, retention of information is important. So even if people like it, they might not fully absorb it. I want to wind it back a little bit. I think, yeah. I think you don't realize how many econ geeks you have who watch these. That may be true. It's a depressing audiobook version. I recorded the audiobook version last week or the week before or something, or both. Did you notice some good responses from Soul Fan? I mean, that would require me reading the comments. Not really. I mean, I saw a couple of things, but nothing that seemed really worth engaging with. I don't think... Look, it's tricky because there's always debate and counter arguments to be had, and maybe, you know, people could say there are parts of Soul that I missed. Obviously, I couldn't review everything he said. So, but I do think it would be very, very difficult to mount a defense of the following proposition. Thomas Sowell is a reliable place to go to understand modern economics. Like, that proposition, I don't think you can defend. He's really behind the times and dishonest. He misses many of the most important studies. He sets up a lot of straw men. I don't think you could really defend that. Like, why would you leave out so many things? Why would you leave out those discrimination studies? They're so well known. It's mad. Unless I'm wrong and he does reference them. I mean, maybe he references them somewhere, but in the 3 books that I read that deal with discrimination, he didn't. You personally have to go through it a couple more times just to get it. Yeah, that's fair. I think that's cool, and it's cool obviously if you do watch it multiple times. I think it is layered. It's supposed to be like you could go back to it. But I do want to do more videos where it's like, you know, not super dumbed down and everything, but just a bit more like there's one message explained really well. Like, I just get myself into like these massive videos where it's like fucking that was like, it was a comprehensive lecture on modern labor economics. Like, that's mental. Like, why did I set myself that task? What's oh, someone super chatted. Wait a second. Do I not have super chat coming up? 1 second. Ah. No, I do not. My bad. But you said Ike? What did you say? Have you heard about a channel called Farming Explained? It has some interesting British agricultural history and political economy videos, though heavily in defence of farmers. When someone defends farmers, you can never tell if they're a Maoist or a Tory, right? I mean, farmers in Britain are generally quite posh and also very, very self-righteous. Why did you bring up Farming Explained, though? That's... How fascism became environmentalism. Oh, sorry. What's the fuss about Beauvais? How farmers destroyed all our hedges. Why farmers are not capitalists? I mean, that looks interesting. When Britain's landowning elite left the country, then came back. Maybe Maybe I'll put it on in a bit, but I don't really like stealing smaller channels' videos. What's the book that will come out? This one. Why We're Getting Poorer. That I can never figure out the angle. A realist guide to the economy and how we can fix it. The title is me. The subtitle is the editor. It's more of a BuzzFeed type thing. Introduction. A good time to study economics. The course of my adult life has been defined by perpetual economic crisis. The 2007-9 global financial crisis hit just as I first began studying economics at high school. My economics tutor at the time commented that the recession was horrible, but the silver lining was that it was a good time to study economics. The subsequent decade and a half has proved to be a very good time to study economics. That recession was the largest in 70 years at the time, and saw massive spikes in unemployment, declines in living standards, and the shutting down of countless businesses, including my stepfather's. Many people across the globe found their access to basic necessities like food threatened. But even these difficult events would seem mild compared to what was to come. There you go. Basically halfway through. You don't have to buy it now. Wait a second. Oh, my side, client side, has stopped updating. Because I can see that it's updating on the... Why do I never say my name in my YouTube videos? I never knew you were published. Yeah, I don't know. I was pseudonymous for a while, right? And I didn't show my face. And then I started showing my face. And then I also started... let me just reach for something. Then I... what else was I going to say? I do say my name occasionally, and if you watch my live streams on like Zoom and stuff, I just allow it to appear. And I sometimes share stuff I've done in real life on the channel, but I don't like make a big deal out of it. In summary, economics is a land of contrasts. Yeah, exactly. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Hey Yui, I watched your new vid, all fucking 3 hours of it. Did you really snort that? I did snort that. Yes, I fucking snorted it. It was horrible. It was flour. Lack of regulation and decline of worker protections. I think that's a big part of it, yeah. Yeah. It's complicated, but there are 8 reasons why we're getting poorer, I think, and each of them is a chapter. Gary Stevenson, Gaza. I can't look anywhere without seeing Gary at the moment. I did an interview with him like years ago. If you look through like my podcast, the Unlearning Economics podcast, or on Unlearning Economics Live, like a while ago, it's yeah. It's I don't remember that interview that well now, I have to say. But with Gary, yeah, I think he's getting the message out there, like he knows his stuff about finance. It seems like he's just popping up everywhere. My channel used to have more subscribers than his, but now he has way more since his book came out. I actually haven't read his book yet, but I do want to. I kind of want to speak to him about his book. The state is too big, market too regulated, and unions too strong. Yeah, and you forgot because of woke. It's actually actually every chapter title is just because of woke. Reeves proposed changes to pension funds. Now, I'll confess, I haven't even... What's she done? What has she done now? Um, I did just save an article that might be about this. Wait a second. Trump has ended woke, yeah. Yeah, so here we go. One second. Just trying to position this so that you guys can read it. That's okay. The government is proposing to ease restrictions on how some pension schemes are managed as part of efforts to boost economic growth. The Treasury said defined benefit pension schemes have a total surplus of £160 billion, but under current rules, much of the money is trapped and cannot be invested in the wider economy. The government has made improving growth its main priority in order to boost living standards, but recent figures indicate the economy is struggling to expand. Wow. I can't believe that they didn't just pass that law for growth. They weren't just like, going to pass the growth law and now everything's going to be fine. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer told company bosses on Tuesday that the government's growth mission would be the key factor behind policy decisions. Sir Keir was speaking after he and Chancellor Rachel Reeves met bosses of firms including Tesco, BT and Unilever as part of their efforts to get more investment to the UK. The meeting came ahead of a speech by Reeves on Wednesday, where she is expected to focus on measures to boost growth amid speculation the government will back a third runway at Heathrow Airport. Sir Keir said he was hardwiring growth into all the decisions of the cabinet. He said he would not speculate about Heathrow, but added, "What I will say is that growth is the number one priority, wealth creation, making sure that people are better off. Of course, we also have climate commitments, but growth is really important too." Fuck. I haven't learned anything from this article yet. Fuck me. Right. On Monday, the Chancellor told Labour MPs that there were no easy routes to economic growth. She added ministers must start saying yes to new projects and go further and faster to boost the economy. Official figures show that between July and September, the economy had zero growth, and the latest monthly figure for November showed just a small uptick. The consultation on pensions reform hopes to unlock billions of pounds within certain defined benefit schemes for alternative use in the economy, the pension schemes or the company. The previous Conservative government launched a similar consultation last year. So what was wrong with that one? Well, I mean, it was done by the Conservatives, but why? Defined benefit pensions, sometimes known as a final salary scheme, are directly linked to a worker's salary and length of service. 3/4 of the funds that pay out these pensions are in surplus, which means they effectively have more money in them than needed to meet those pension payments. However, just a few years ago, many schemes were in deficit when interest rates were lower, prompting some companies to reduce their pension offer, and a reversal could occur again. Warnings. Some pensions experts have warned that there are risks around redeploying such funds, but the pensions regulator, TPR, straightforward name, I like it, has expressed its support for the government's plans. Where schemes are fully funded and there are protections in place for members, we support efforts to help trustees and employers consider how to safely release surplus if it can improve member benefits or unlock investment in the wider economy, said Nausicaa Delphas, Chief Executive of TPR, the pensions regulator. Many of these pension schemes are closed, so are invested relatively safely in order to ensure they meet their obligations to members when no extra contributions are coming in. Pension scheme trustees would need to agree that releasing money will not put members' pensions at danger. There is no guarantee that companies would use the money to invest, a move that would require confidence in the wider outlook. That would need to happen at scale for economic growth to improve. Man, this is really baby's first economics, isn't it, this article? Workers might also want the surplus to be used to improve the pension offer made to staff, all staff, including those on more common defined contribution rather than defined benefit pensions. The proposals follow plans announced last year by the Chancellor to create pensions megafunds by merging the UK's 86 council schemes based on the model used in Canada and Australia. The government has also suggested pension schemes need to reach a certain size or pool together. The idea behind this is that larger funds are cheaper to run and are more able to invest in UK infrastructure projects. So to answer your question, I'm not mad at this idea, because if there is a surplus sitting around and you can invest some of it in riskier assets than has previously been invested in, I think that's okay, given that we have a financialized economy. I mean, it could contribute to a greater degree of financialization, I suppose, but I'm not that mad at it. What I am mad at is that because it happened, I had to read that article. So I almost, I almost cried. You almost saw me cry. Oh, I think there might be a problem with... Timers. Currently chatting to Jason Smith. No, I am not. Okay. My God. Yeah, I mean, it depends. Yeah, it could be really bad. Like, it'd probably be really bad. I guess if you could just, like... I mean, I don't know. It didn't give any specifics, that article, about, like, what they're not allowed to invest in now and what they would be allowed to invest in under this scheme. But I can imagine if you backed, like, just an index fund, right? Just the FTSE. That seems okay to me, like... But maybe they're already doing that. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know that much about pensions. Is Sol referenced often in the UK? And by the way, I mean, it won't boost growth noticeably. Like, that's... I mean, I'm just thinking about the sustainability of pensions. But obviously, this is like a move to try and spend money without spending money. Because they don't have the fucking balls to actually invest. Is Sol referenced often in the UK or even the EU? I'm in Louisville. I don't know how to say that. And only see him mentioned by right-wing religious folks, not politicians as much. Oh, you don't. He is a very American economist, right? You don't see him over here, really. Only really as a result of the internet where you've seen it. Do you... oh, God. Lots of questions. A form of socialism, worker democracy, yeah. Market... I think... I'd consider myself a market socialist, although even that means different things to different people. But, yeah, essentially I'm a big fan of cooperatives and also... and yeah, but also like public services. But I do think that this whole thing tends to come together, right? It's like you can build like cooperatives and invest in public services, especially at a local level, and have more communal methods of organizing. So all of that stuff tends to happen together for me, but those are the different prongs of it. And I do think markets are... yeah, I don't think everything should be for sale, I'll put it that way. Thomas Sowell more like Thomas So Bad. Isn't that one of the top comments? I looked at the top comments. What's my favourite Simpsons joke at the moment? At the moment, I mean... What's that one where he's like... I would say the first one that sprung to mind, right, when you said that, is this one.
In the library at the time, but Janie told me that Principal Skinner and Bart's teacher, Mrs. What's her name?
Krabappel?
Yeah, Krabappel. They were naked in the closet together.
Oh my goodness.
Wait a minute. Bart's teacher is named Krabappel? I've been calling her Crandall. Why didn't someone tell me? Oh, I've been making an idiot out of myself.
Just the way he runs away at the end as well. Anyway, that's the first one. Although I have also been saying that food is getting all cold and eaten quite a lot recently. You kind of have to be looking for Solor to be introduced to him, even in the US. I agree. I don't look, guys. I used to be like an econ blogger, and I used to fucking argue with libertarians all the time, like American libertarians with their silly nutty views. And I barely encountered Sol. Even then, it was much more Austrian flavor. It was more like Hayek, Mises, Rothbard, Hop. Who else? Kerzner. Lachman, like those were my arguments, and Friedman as on the sort of Chicago side. You'd have like Friedman, Lucas on the more mainstream. But I think I heard the name Thomas Sowell, but he is like, and I've said this before, like on stream, he's big on YouTube, like not just like the internet. He's big on YouTube specifically for some reason. I think partly there's like these sort of Thomas Sowell destroys debate type things. I don't know, like maybe Ben Shapiro who likes him, or I'm not sure. But it is like you can go through a whole economics PhD without seeing him. It's pretty crazy how many hours of my life I've dedicated to him. But you know.
What sort of timescale does Starmer/Reeves need to turn the economy round if Labour gets serious and put investment from somewhere into the economy?
Starmer need to turn the economy around if Labour gets serious and put investment from somewhere into the economy. Time frame. I mean, I think you need to give my personal opinion is that you should give like a new leader 2 years, because so many things take a while to come to fruition and like stabilize, and there's the legacy effects of the previous government. Now, I don't know what I mean, you've got Keir Starmer's like passing laws, like laws to help renters. I don't think they're actually the best laws that he could be passing, and I also think that if you start aggressively passing that kind of legislation against the backdrop of a stagnant economy, it tends to be less effective. But I would say when his laws are going to come into effect this year, you probably need to like wait at least a year or so after to see like the full effects, or like not the full effects, but like to even make any sort of judgment. So, to be honest, like, I would actually, and I'm not a fan of them because I don't like their ideas in the first place before they've passed them, but I would say, really, almost an entire term you need. I do think people are impatient in a partisan manner. Like, they're impatient with specifically blaming the current leader for what's going on. I think people are very fickle and impatient about that. I think that's our politics kind of suffers from that, which isn't to say that there aren't major problems that need to be solved like yesterday, because there are. But I just think that people channel all their frustration with that into like the leader and then blame them, even when they haven't had enough time to get their policies enacted, or like it's not like directly, they're not directly to blame. Do I think worker co-ops are doable at businesses that run at smaller? Mate, this stream chat is fucked, man. That's so annoying. It keeps freezing. Worker co-ops are doable at businesses that run at smaller margins of profit. Would you pay in stock options, dividends, or a type of interest for founders? I mean, I think there are quite a few examples of relatively small businesses, and you wouldn't. I think you tend to have a like. It seems like you're thinking of like a capitalist firm that rejigs to be a worker co-op, whereas you would just have a constitution where you've got like $1 one vote. And I mean, maybe legalistically that means that you own a share and everybody owns a share, right? But it's not the same as the shares that we typically have. And then you have like wages and then like a surplus, and you can have some dividends, right? You can have dividends for members, or you can have, if you need investors, you can have Class B shareholders where they can invest and get money back, but they don't work. They don't have any control over decisions, not like shareholder capitalism in the UK and USA and so on. But I don't know about. I think there are plenty of small co-ops. If anything, it's bigger businesses that are less likely to be co-ops. I think it's, if you're talking about like, or you're talking about smaller margins of profit, not smaller. I mean, I don't understand why that would be any more problematic for a worker co-op than for a capitalist firm. Obviously, like workers at worker co-ops are actually sometimes happier to take the hit in terms of reduced hours or wages in order to weather a storm, and like they're also more likely to reinvest. So I think, I'm not sure if it's definitely better at worker co-ops, but I don't see why it would be worse than just the fact of small profit margins, which is itself obviously a tricky thing for any business or organization to navigate. Why is this? I'm very confused by Streamlabs, which is usually pretty good. Just not. But there is a co-op near where I used to live. There was just a like a nice sort of very hippie vegan food shop, but it was really famous. But they had tight profit margins, and they were just an independent. Kemi Badnock is literally complaining about peasants. What's this about? Is she? Peasants. Oh, I'll tell you what's funny. She likes Soul, doesn't she? She does like Soul. Interesting. Yeah. Kemi Badnock. Let me just make sure I'm pronouncing this right.
We are looking at how to pronounce these names and more confusing.
He has a nice voice, doesn't he?
Vocabulary and names, including from UK politics, a member of the Parliament of the United Kingdom, Kemi Badnock.
Oh.
Kemi Badnock.
Kemi Badnock. It is literally, it's phonetic, basically. Kemi Badnock has defended blaming peasants from sub-communities in foreign countries for the grooming gangs crisis. They should not be shy. Oh, God. Peasant background. People talk about Asian, about Pakistani to be blamed. Innocent people who happen to share characteristics are being blamed. So let's be specific. But peasant is another... The peasant blames... What I said, this is gold. Fucking hell, mate. She is hopeless. And that's one of the things I'm trying to fix here. I hear a lot of people talk about Asian grooming gangs, about Pakistani grooming gangs. A lot of people are being blamed. A lot of innocent people who happen to share characteristics are being blamed. So let's be specific. What? Peasants? Peasants is another group. You're still blaming innocent people. Jesus Christ, man. That is just why? Why, Kemi? Badenoch. One thing is that Trump is neither sensible nor civil, so we might see the UK peel away from the USA. Mate, I really doubt it. We've been fucking peeling towards the USA for decades now, probably since Thatcher. We've had, have you seen that Jimmy the Giant video about this? We've had like just a growth in American companies, American lifestyles, like growth in McDonald's, like growth in like drug use, like obesity, all those types of things that are quintessentially American. We're definitely heading towards that. And Brexit was just like the final nail in the coffin. We're now no longer as tightly linked to the EU. And the USA is one of our only hopes. And we're like deregulating and our food is poisonous. There's like an E. coli outbreak. Iraq is a peasant like a small landowner? Well, they can be, but also they might work for a lord on bigger land. I lived in a co-op for a summer. Established practice was to sneak the trash to some business's dumpster rather than pay for trash collection. We were part of some national co-op housing corporation. Yeah, to be fair, we used to do the same thing at my old house. In shitification of everything. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, we've always had kind of crap stuff, I think, in Britain. I don't know, though. I don't know. It'd be interesting if that's gotten worse. And I wonder if shitification is worse in the USA and countries with like weaker antitrust. Yeah, no one. I'll tell you what's really interesting as well is how much people hate the Americans here, I think. And not like in a, well, I mean, British people are pretty xenophobic, but not, I don't mean like individual Americans, but like the American lifestyle. It's always our reference point, right? We're like, our healthcare system is not like theirs. We're not as fat as them. We're not as racist as them. We don't have gun crime. Like, we think the obsession with guns is nutty, etc., right? So we have that. It's really deeply ingrained culturally. Like, if I want to get a British person to like be like leftist, loosely speaking, anti-corporate power, the absolute easiest way is to just start talking about American companies and how fucked up they are. Like, that's completely simple. They'll be like, oh yeah, the Americans, yeah. If you start talking about like capitalism, then they, won't necessarily know what you're talking about or care. It has. I'm 60. Do you mean shitification has gotten worse? Yeah, that makes sense. I think shitification has just gotten worse over time. For sure. You're scared for Denmark with the growing US threat against them. Yeah, I wouldn't have had that actually on my bingo, but on my like Trump bingo, that tensions with Denmark. But guys, have you seen did you see that he's suspended all federal grants and subsidies? I know he's doing a lot of stuff. I know he's doing stuff with the border, but he's suspended all federal grants and subsidies. Is shitification just the tendency for things to be ruined by ads and subscriptions, or does it include planned obsolescence? I think it includes both of those things. I think what shitification refers to is the process by which a company establishes a product and a monopoly by undercutting the competitor with technologies, with heavy upfront investment, whatever, but then it steadily gets worse noticeably along one or more dimensions. So the Google is like the perfect example, right? Like Google was and still kind of is amazing. But in 2019, they realized that they needed more ad revenue, so they stopped giving you the best searches and started pushing products. And now they got their fucking AI all over it, like everything. It seems highly illegal to suspend all spending passed by Congress, separation of powers and all. I mean, it has always been wacky to me how much power your president has in the USA. Like pardoning, like vetoing, and executive orders. Right, that's crazy. Like the prime minister can't do that here. They can bet they can't. So it's been used for bad before, but it does seem like there was obviously some kind of gentleman's agreement surrounding it and some sense of duty and responsibility that even somebody like George W. Bush, there were things that he wouldn't have done, but Trump obviously doesn't have any of that. So now all of those powers, which are bad, I don't think anyone should have that level of power. But all of those powers are going to be used in the most ridiculous way. But I mean, I'll tell you what we'll see. What I was thinking about that, the passing of all the the banning of all the federal grants and stuff. I think that sparking confusion. Trillions of dollars could be on hold. Pauses, suspends. Suspends is more dramatic, isn't it? But it means the same thing. But I'll tell you what this will show us. This is Polanyi, right? These grants and subsidies exist for a reason. They're filling gaps that the market economy generally cannot fill. Now, not always, of course. There are vested interests and there are bad policy ideas. But you're talking about big things, right? You're talking about education, the environment, welfare, food stamps, right? So you're talking about massive things. So what you will see is that this is why Polanyi's double movement happens. Because there are these gaps that the market economy won't fill. And if you suspend all of these, you're going to get a sort of fast run of what Polanyi said would happen in like a pure market economy, which is suffering and collapse. A pause also isn't legal. The original enshittification meaning was using a good product to get customers, then taking money and shitting on customers to expand business partners, then shitting on business partners to cash out. Right, yeah, that's pretty succinct. Yeah. Comparing Scandinavian countries with the US and UK, it's such a tricky thing to do. You guys might notice I don't do argument by Nordic very much, and a lot of people that I respect do, and I do think it's a simple thing to say, right? When you're like, people are like, oh, that can't work, and you're like, well, what about like those countries that are literally just, they're just over there, they're in that direction that I'm pointing in, they do it, so that makes sense. But I do think that cross-country comparisons can be very tricky. I can't fathom how the US can survive economically after those things Trump is doing. Well, I know, but I don't think so. I'm not saying. I don't think he'll be able to do it, right? I don't think these federal grants are going to stay paused. I don't think that the tariffs are going to be as universal as he might have hoped. I don't think the deportations are going to be as comprehensive as he might have hoped. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not going to do them to varying extents and they're not going to be horrible and have negative effects. But you just run up against, like, political realities, right? You want to, like, get rid of all of the unskilled labor. You want to, like, put tariffs on everything and have retaliatory tariffs and make everything more expensive when you ran on lower inflation. Do you want to, like, literally, like, have schools unable to function? Like, I know that's kind of what they want, but I don't think you can do that easily. Certainly not so quickly, because you'll just get pushback and you'll get huge problems and resistance. So just because he can't do everything he wants to, but bear in mind what he wants to do is like so extreme. It's like over here, right? And so like we're here, and he's like he wants to do this. Now I'm saying, you know, he's going to be brought back to like here, right? So it's still going to be really bad. It'll definitely be a catastrophe. He's testing the system, pushing the limits of what he can do and what Republicans will let him get away with. Yeah. He's a bit like a toddler. He's a bit like a toddler who's like pushing the boundaries. They want to end public schooling. I completely agree. I just don't think that they can achieve it overnight. And I think it'll always be. Yeah, I mean, it's really funny that it's such an American thing, isn't it? The conservatives want to end public schooling. I mean, we do have academies here, but the conservatives haven't gone to war with schools in the same way. I wonder if it's partly because religion is a bigger thing in the USA, in the red states, certainly. Hi, Assad. Glad to have you. Thanks, Floyd. I'm glad that you find it all useful. It is digested knowledge. That's a good way of putting it. Guys, do you know how much I fucking read for the Thomas Sowell in the American Dream video? Like I don't know how many fucking pages I read. Even if you exclude Sowell, I reckon it was over 1,000. It's madness. Yeah, there's the thing about teachers' unions as well here, like in the US, which it doesn't. Again, obviously, conservatives in the UK hate unions, like any conservative, really. But like teachers' unions are such a thing in the USA. Like people fucking like despise them who aren't on the left. It's pretty crazy. It's because of racism. Yeah, that's true. It is also white supremacy, right? And like schools being integrated. I think that's part of it. Yeah. It is quite insane how many things in the USA come down to like white people cutting off their nose to spite their face. Just like you can literally, they will literally like make their lives worse to deny black people healthcare, schooling, welfare. It became prominent. Anti-public school sentiment became prominent after desegregation. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's funny. I mean, it might be something worth discussing in my third Thomas Sowell video, because that history, there's this whole history, right? So did anybody ever read Nancy MacLean's Democracy in Chains? I forget if that's her name. Nancy McLean, Democracy in Chains. Nancy McLean, Democracy in Chains, yeah. So she was like basically on this, right? It was all about desegregation era schooling but like public choice theory, something called public choice theory, which is like the political application of like mainstream economics and the rational incentive driven person. And basically what they said is that people are looking out for their own interests, so politics can't work. But I think what McLean does, and I stress I haven't read this book, but maybe it's one to read for Soul Part 3. What she does is places that in a context of desegregation and how it was actually used as an argument against like integrating schools. Did you guys not listen to the end of this current video? Did you guys not listen to the end? You should have listened right to the end. Like, yeah. I think I say it right at the end. Right at the end. Well, yeah, I think public choice theory is pretty ridiculous, and it's. I'm aware that there is a lot of evidence against it, so people don't. It's like, if you think about it simply, right? When you're voting, what are you thinking about? Of course, you're thinking about yourself to some extent, but it's quite. I can't really remember an election where like there was a government policy change that actually was going to benefit me. Clearly, do you know what I mean? I was like, I've never really voted with that in mind. You're thinking your political self, right? And it depends on who you are and what you're doing, and different people will bear themselves in mind, obviously, and self-interest will be a factor. But you're thinking publicly, and there's a lot of evidence for this. You're thinking like what's best for the people in general. Part 4, no, it's a trilogy. A trilogy is safe. It's good to have a trilogy, right? Trump is trying to end birthright citizenship, and if he succeeds in overruling the Constitution and achieving that goal, that paves the way for him to force the third term. Yeah, he did mention something about a third term, didn't he? Usually the capital class will vote for their own interest, but the working class will think publicly. Yeah, and look, I think it's very complicated as well, because your idea of what the public interest is will be affected by your own interests, right? So clearly, it's just a matter of perspective. Like if you're white, right, you're not going to have like the interests of black people and immigrants in mind as much, because you lack the perspective to understand like what they're going through and what they need. So it is complicated, but people don't just pursue their own narrow self-interest in politics. Like there's so much evidence for that. I think Leif Lewin, the political scientist, has like pretty resoundingly debunked that notion. I'd ban private education. I'd ban private schools in the UK for sure. Did you know that people who go to the Clarendon schools, the 9 top private schools in Britain, like Eton and Westminster are among them. They are 94 times more likely. 1 second. I'm going to have to look at my own book. 94 times more likely, I think, to produce elites than the average British school. Yeah, it is 94 times. Well, public schools, private. We call private schools public schools in the UK. Yeah, for no good reason. Eton, Harrow, Westminster, Winchester, St Paul's, Merchant Taylors, Shrewsbury, Rugby, and Charterhouse. So, from what I remember with school vouchers, it's another. It's a topic I haven't covered, but it. I think Nathan Robinson of Current Affairs told me this. Sol references evidence showing that charter schools, like private schools, they have better outcomes for students than non-charter schools. But like he just references that as evidence without noting the obvious problem that different types of students, namely wealthier ones, are going to select into charter schools. But I think he's got like Charter Schools and Their Enemies is like one of his books. I don't know if it's worth. Charter school teachers don't have unions yet. Yeah. What do I mean produce elites? So the specific definition of this, let me get it for you. Oh, 1 second. Yeah, two out of 3 British prime ministers attended Clarendon schools historically. Two out of 3. That's insane. One second, sorry, I'm just trying to find this stat. I'm just going through my references if you need to see. 1 second. What did I... Oh, 57. So I forget what their exact... The decline and persistence of the old boy. That is what the... To reach the British elite. 94 times more likely to reach the British elite. Go away. Yeah, I'm like, even of these 94 times. What is their definition of the British elite? Constructing a British elite. I mean, it does seem to be something that they construct for this. For this paper. Unique catalogue of the British elite. Yeah, I mean, it's just a combination of like economic, social, and like cultural capital, but I don't know exactly. I'd have to go into their definition more. Thanks, Woohoo. The elite means inclusion in the who's who, yeah. People who hold disproportional political power. But I think they were talking about economic power as well, right? And like other stuff. Yeah, wait a second. So, who's who British elite? Who's who is a reference work. Yeah, it's this. It's this thing. So this is obviously interesting. So it's been published annually in the form of a hardback book since 1849 and has been published online since 1999. It has also been published on CD-ROM. It lists and gives information on people from around the world who influence British life. Entries include notable figures from government, politics, academia, business, sport, and the arts. Who's Who 2023 is the 175th edition and includes more than 33,000 people. So this is it, right? It's just, I guess it's just compiled like it's like who. It's like who's, it's almost like who's who. Interesting. A good paper is the myth of meritocracy. Do I think that fascism will lead to more class consciousness? No. No, I don't think so, because it's the replacement of class consciousness with ethnic and national and racial divisions, right? So I don't see why that would lead to more class consciousness, except perhaps among the white working class to some extent, but maybe even less, I don't know. What symbolic value that American flag has for me in the background, or just for the heck of it? I don't know, I just thought it was funny. I put it up, I thought I'd keep it up. It doesn't actually fit on the wall. Have you noticed that? It doesn't fit on the wall. Look. It's just hanging off. I'll take it down at the end of the stream. I am sick of it. It's really annoying me. Just because partly it's just ugly. But it was, you know, you watched the video. Triggering your OCD, yeah. Yeah, me too, actually. You watch the video, you get the point of it. But the reaction to but Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's up to us, right? But I don't. Pardon me. Sorry. I'm not saying I'm pessimistic. But maybe it could. Maybe it could. But it does feel that the resistance to Trump is going to come through different dimensions and mechanisms. It would be, for me, about the sort of guardrails holding up and professional opposition as much as like working class opposition. I just don't feel like working class people in the UK, for instance, it's about getting by, right? It's about getting by. It's not about fighting fascism or anything like that. So that's calming spray. So they're like, I don't know. I can't see. Look, Marx said this. The British working class are not. They're not doing it. They're not doing it, guys. Like, I fucking read an article the other day that was about, I think, like, you know, there's been anti-tourism protests in Spain. And or not just Spain, but like some of the Canary Islands, maybe. And they were interviewing British people. And I don't even know, they weren't necessarily working class people. They were just the average Brit. They were interviewing them. And the comments were like so vicious and ignorant that I was just like, mate, like we're not going anywhere in the UK. We're fucked. They were just like, what were they saying? It was like, it's basically the nub of it was like, well, we'll see how they do without our tourism. You know, we keep those islands afloat and everything like that. But it got more racist. It definitely got more racist. It was more like some quite overtly racist comments. I can't remember how many times I've heard the argument, if things get worse, people are more likely to revolt. No, it won't. Every single example of successful revolution in history says the opposite almost, in that all successful revolutions happened when the ruling class were at their weakest. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Wait a second. Is it... Let me have a look for this. I don't think I can find the British comments on the... It's the Canary Islands... the Canary Islands... Mate, these comments literally, like, hit me for 6. No, can't. I can't find it. I can't find it. Sorry. COVID was, there was quite a lot of solidarity, but I think just the level of misinformation that was spread about it, and like the level of frustration as well from lockdown and everything, it didn't turn into what it might have, right? What it hopefully could have. Hello, love your videos. Don't get enough attention span to thoroughly understand it. Also, would you like a revision on old videos? I saw some criticisms that looked proper unlearning economics. All criticisms of my videos are wrong and bad. I will never change any of my opinions. What criticisms is there? You didn't watch the one by that nonce, did you? It's quite funny. Nobody's noted that comment that I put in about that YouTuber who turned out to be a groomer, who made like a very angry and nasty response video to me. Well, I mean, I didn't actually watch it. Yeah, I think essential workers are a really interesting term in terms of radicalization. Like it's such a mad term, just because literally everybody knew during COVID what an essential worker was. It's not up for debate. Like, sorry, I should say most of it's not up for debate. Obviously, there were some grey areas, but farmers, anything involved with food distribution and retail, and like bus drivers, train drivers, lorry drivers, truck drivers, doctors and nurses, builders, school teachers, you know what I mean? Like, Bad Empanada is not a groomer. I didn't think he was. He's just absolutely insane. Oh, thanks, Digital Gnosis. I'm not talking about Bad Empanada. I'm talking about a guy called Just the Facts. This was ages ago, guys. Called himself Just the Facts. Your fave is the theory of value. Oh, I'm glad you like that one. That's another one along with the soul one where I was like, I am at the limit of like how much information I can put into one of these videos. Everyone understands what a basic need is. Huge amounts of capital go into obfuscating needs with wants. It can be politically powerful to restate the simplicity of the economic problem. Yeah, agree. It's just, yeah, and essential workers does that, right? It's like, we know what's essential. We know exactly what's essential. Even like Netflix, right? People kept platforms and stuff going in the internet during, it's like, fine. You don't have to go like back to the fucking like Stone Age or whatever to only fulfill essentials and subsistence. We're talking about social essentials, right? for modern society. But a lot of people can just stop working. Or work much less. And, like, the universe doesn't implode. Terrible taco. Yeah, that's a funny... Terrible taco, yeah. Yeah. Why is that acceptable? Why is it acceptable as a name when it's an empanada? Bad empanada just looks like a groomer. There is no one. Look, guys, like, he's not. He's obviously, like, completely insane and quite toxic, right? Like, I mean, you know that. As far as the content of his videos goes, like the substance of it, it's fine. You find it interesting that I included the argument from diminishing marginal utility of money when I have seemed somewhat critical of marginal analysis. Thoughts? I never know if you're trolling or not, Connor. Again, it goes back to what we were saying about needs, right? I think for me, diminishing marginal utility is like a reduced form way of capturing something like needs. That would be my interpretation. But I think everybody understands it. Everybody understands it, like, at some level. Mainstream economists understand it. People on the street understand it. And, like, radical, woke, SJW, hippie leftists like me understand it. I just rewatched his Economist Live video, and his response to UB is really unhinged. Yeah, he did make that response to me. That was a bit weird. That I just thought it just felt like I was like, that's so, like, toxic that I just can't interact with him anymore. It's sad, really, because I mean, I don't want to sound too much like a, Joe Rogan type, but like any potential for, like, constructive debate and exchange is just lost in that kind of toxicity, isn't it? It is a shame. How would you go about learning economics now, given your knowledge of the field and quality of different sources? How would I get 80% of your knowledge with 20% of the effort? Watch my videos? I don't know, dude. Try the reading list, the ultimate economics document, or I might have renamed it just the Unlearning Economics reading list. I think when I called it the Ultimate Economics document, I was like, when I called it that, I think it was based on something Vorsh created, the streamer. But just given the trouble that he got into as well, I was like, I don't really want to, like, allude to anything he's done. Fuck me, why is the internet so full of miscreants? So you're fucking walking on eggshells. Everyone's like doing bad things or whatever. You think he's not insane, he just doesn't take the platform seriously. I mean, at what stage does I don't want to get too, like, Foucault or whatever, too post-structuralist, but at what stage does somebody acting insane all the time just become insane? Paul Street is a tanky. I don't know if he is one himself. I don't know who that is. He called me poopy in the thumbnail. Oh yeah. That was really, like, that's like, it's like so weird that I didn't know how to react. It's like, geez, man, like, how immature can you be? Like, surely you can think of a better insult than that. I don't hate Vorsh. It's just that I don't really understand, like, the whole leaked thing. Well, not leaked. It was fucking on his stream, right? And it was like, it just wasn't good. Like, it wasn't good. It wasn't. I don't think it wasn't being a groomer, right? But it wasn't good, right? And yeah, he's also a fucking idiot for for doing it. I'm the hippie SJW left. I don't really get the want needs distinction. It seems intuitive to most, but not to me. It was, in your opinion, the weakest part of the video. Huh. But the essential, non-essential workers distinction in the pandemic doesn't do anything for you. You don't think, oh yeah, that gets at something that's actually real and everybody recognized it and did it. And also, I will add that Thomas Sowell's arguments that needs don't exist seemed ridiculous to me. Horsefuckers. Drama stuff is insufferable. Yeah, I can't spend too long on it. I mean, it's so... People love it, right? And we love it despite ourselves, right? We like to think we don't, but we do. And I think it's like... I use some drama and response to tell a worthwhile story, as opposed to just like going to war with somebody and like back and forth, get more and more siloed, get more and more toxic. This guy's a fucking idiot, blah, blah, blah. Gary's economics. That's the second. I'm going to have to add that to my FAQs. I've speaked to Gary. Vorsh recommended you multiple times in his stream, hence why I'm here. Yeah, I know. He's always been really nice to me. But it's like, you know, I agree with a lot of Vorsh's takes. I think he's always been really nice to me, which I appreciate. I chatted to him. But I can't sit here and be like, yeah, whatever leaked on his stream that time was cool. Like, I can't, you know, just because I personally think he's a fine streamer and everything. Wait, let me the ultimate. Wait, it's on my Reddit actually. At the moment, somebody posted it. Hey, by the way, is the front page of Reddit of a subreddit broken for anybody else? Here it is. Hey, there's a few people on it. I think it did get posted, right? Copy link. That's fair. He's an idiot sometimes. Yeah, I think that's fair. He did admit that as well. Is that I just posted the reading list, everybody. Can't stay on the internet much because of this new online drama industry, makes me sick. Yeah, I know. It literally, because I just, when I get into it, I'm like, I start to feel ill. I think, you guys know Noah Samson, the kind of leftist video essayist? I don't know if I'd even call him a video essayist. He's more of a commentary type. He releases quite a lot of videos, but they're not live streams, but they're kind of similar, just like, here's what's going on. But I remember he did like an interview with a few of those guys like J-Reg and stuff, and he was saying he just ended up deep in the hole of like drama and quite toxic stuff and responding to these anti-woke channels, and it's just like horrible. What is Politics channel? Oh yeah, I have heard about that channel. I think I sort of subscribed, and then I've got it in the back of my head because I haven't read Graeber's book, Graeber and Wengrow, and I want to and I will, but I don't know how soon that's going to be. But I am in like, yeah. I am like thinking about it. God, he's insufferable. I think Noah... I think the persona... Noah admitted this in this interview that I'm talking about. I think the interview is called something like The Most Annoying Man on the Internet. But he was like, look, I do come across as really annoying on my on my videos. But in the interview, he comes across okay. But he... But he just seems relatively normal. But you don't know somebody from like, you don't know somebody from their videos, like you really don't. And I know people say that all the time, but like it doesn't, it breaks our brains. We can know that intellectually, but we don't understand it on like a social level. We think that we know them, and we think they're our friends. Oh, I've read Bullshit Jobs. I've read Bullshit Jobs, and I've read Debt. I haven't read The Dawn of Everything. Drama is awful. I hate that it grabs me sometimes. Yeah. Hello, are we going into recession? Should I pull all my money from all my accounts and hide it under your mattress? I'll do you one better, John. You need to burn your money. That's the only way they won't get it. No, don't please don't actually do that. I wouldn't take it out of a bank account. I think it's pretty safe in a bank account or something. I find when I watch Noah's videos, I do get that brain, what would you call it? Brain rot. Sorry, brain rot. That was the word of the year in 2024, wasn't it? Brain rot. But I do get that brain. You're just like, oh God, man. Like, I don't know. You're like 6 videos in with this back and forth with this fucking like moron, anti-woke channel or whatever. Desktop shortcuts. Are you trying to hack into my mainframe? All right. I'll show you a sneak peek. I might put this behind an OnlyFans paywall. I don't. It's mostly just games, right? It's mostly just like little games. Ooh. That's actually better. But yeah. In your comments on MMT, your criticisms was that the job guarantee would be used for means testing and cut welfare. Would you support a decentralized job guarantee model based on a workers' democracy? I mean, I don't know enough about that specific policy to say yes, but I say it certainly sounds promising. I think a way that would, yeah, I think for me that's somehow socially enforcing the requirement to work would be the most desirable end state of affairs in a decentralized way. And I'm thinking like an anarchist type thing, like Ursula Le Guin's The Dispossessed, if anybody's read that. You get various social sanctions if you're not pulling your weight. But you still get provided for economically. So you're not at risk of starvation. Although I guess the social sanctions would have to be escalating, right? So eventually you would probably be exiled or whatever, physically hurt. That for me is a really good system. It's just that I don't think the state as it is should be enforcing that system. I think that's really bad political economy. Oh, he has a podcast, What is Politics? I play LOL. I don't play LOL. Oh my god, so much hate for LOL. That's really funny. So basically, I have a lot of friends that play it, and I tried it. I've actually tried it twice now, and I cannot get into it. I don't understand. It's so boring. And then it seems like it's like really boring for ages, and then it's just like really addictive in a really horrible competitive way. And I don't get, like, it's like, why would I not enjoy something by being bored by it for a really long time, and then once I'm addicted, I kind of enjoy it, but don't enjoy it in a slightly different way. And I like rue that I made myself addicted. It's not like getting addicted to like chocolate, where you like have some chocolate and you're like, oh yeah, that's good, I'm going to have some more. And then, oh shit, I'm addicted. I can understand how that happens. Why would you play something that's not a fun game to get addicted? That's crazy. So no, I don't actually play LOL. In fact, boy. We'll put Abiotic Factor there, which is a funner game. Have I come across Steve Keen? Yeah, of course. I know Steve. I was on his Steve Keen and Friends at one point, which was a very confusing experience. But, you know, I like Steve. I did a review of his book ages ago. As much as I want to do less work, we don't talk about how much work there is to be done, but we live in a system where labour is not allocated for social community benefits. Yeah. Yeah. I think there's certainly, I think it's like, I don't know if my ideal society would see people necessarily working like less than they are now. Like, not everybody all the time. You can imagine, for instance, it being more seasonal or something like that, right? But we're just not in the position to have that kind of conversation without all of the baggage that we attach to work. Richard Murphy. Again, I spoke to Richard Murphy on the podcast. You guys, you know, I'm not admonishing you. I am saying, before you ask me about someone, or as well as asking me about them, go on Spotify or your whatever podcast listener you have and search Unlearning Economics Podcast, then search their name in that podcast, because I may well have spoken to them. But I like Richard, even if he is a bit pompous. Doctors could use fewer hours. I think I agree with you. I think a lot of doctors and nurses are overworked, for sure. But there's something qualitative, right, about let's say I spend a day, like, I'm self-employed, right? I'm independent. Let's say I spend a day like reading a book or recording a video or writing script, and I spend like 12 hours doing it. That doesn't feel the same as a doctor or a nurse being told to work a 12-hour shift, or just not even just because the work is different or more demanding, like, or someone at a bar or a retail worker doing that, because it's not their choice and they're being told what to do, and they're underappreciated and undervalued, and they don't have status, they don't have control over their own work. So what I'm saying is, like, you can imagine a freer world where people actually work quite a lot because they're the masters of their own destinies. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, obviously, pragmatically, doctors and nurses do need to be worked less. But I'm talking about, I get, you know, it's like creative work versus grunt work, etc. There's lots of qualitative distinctions that you can make around work that go beyond just, you know, how many hours are you working. It's like, I don't have to get up to an alarm, right? Because I'm self-employed. And I didn't when I was an academic either. But I'll still wake up at like around 8. Or so. There are times where I'm waking up actually quite early, like 6 or 7, and I'll just start work. But the key thing is that if I chose to, I wouldn't have to. And that's so different to having to wake up early. When you drove buses, you quite often had 60 to 70 hour work weeks. Yeah, and I mean, that sounds really fucking tough. Would you, I don't know if I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't prefer fully automated luxury communism if possible, but we would work. We would find things to do. People need to do stuff, right? And there's even like house chores and like cooking, doing work for like people around you. We just don't call it work. But then this is the distinction between like a job, right? Working for wages, wage labour, and like work more broadly defined. Is Unlearning my full-time gig? Yes, it is now. Gary Stevenson. That's the third time I've been asked. I like Gary. I spoke to him on my podcast. He's putting the right message out there. I don't agree with all of his analysis. I think it can be a little bit off the cuff. I love waking up earlier than I have to make up for having to wake up somewhat earlier too. It's quite funny how empowering that is, isn't it? Like, it is funny that, because then it's like it's back in your hands. instead of like wake up, rush to work kind of thing. Visionary and decision-making work, creative work. But even the bad work, the grunt work, right? The difference between, like, suppose everybody gets up after, I don't know, your house, there's a few of you live in a house, you've had a house party. Suppose everybody in the morning, after you've all got up and stuff, is like, right, let's clean the house together, let's sort this out, and everybody does it, and there's like several of you doing it. That, to me, that is an enjoyable experience. Gary recommended my did he recommend my channel? Very interesting. Do you think calling roughly left-wing channels BreadTube encouraged even one YouTuber to read The Conquest of Bread? Well, I haven't read it, so. I've read bits and pieces from Kropotkin, but I don't think I've read that in full. Work as a separate class of time spent contributes to the alienation of one from their labour. Yes. I do. So yeah, I agree that the distinction between work and leisure should probably be abolished. I mean, we've got AI now, right? So maybe that can automate some work, although I don't, yeah. Obviously, that's also being massively abused. Code of Capital by Katharina Pistor. Yeah. It's a good book. It's, I should email her, actually. I'd like to speak to her. I feel like I didn't fully understand it in terms of some of the legalistic stuff, but I get the point, right? Like, capital had to be legally defined, and that entails lots of political decisions, and it was a specific historical process that happened at a time and place, and not just something that occurred naturally and inevitably. Oh, it recommended my stream with Gary. Sorry, yeah. Gary, I think he's like very anti-inequality. I think the most recent video of his I watched was about Elon Musk, which makes some similar points to ones I've made about the dominance of billionaires, and I agree with that. Sometimes I wish he'd cite a bit more academic literature, or not just academic, like reports, think tank reports or stats or whatever. Gary's message discipline. This is the thing, right? You can't, if you watch like all of Gary's stuff, like I have absolutely no message discipline, right? Like I want to do a different thing every time. And that doesn't mean I'm contradicting myself, but it does mean that I'm looking at something different or from a different angle every time. I'm still not 100% clear what the point of my channel is, but the point of Gary's channel is very clear. He's anti-inequality, and specifically anti the very, very rich, right? The super rich. Don't I hate pants? Yeah. He's not trying to aim for a more academic. Yeah, and it's like, it's the type of thing that does get shared on like builders' WhatsApps. Whereas I really doubt my Thomas Sowell takedowns do. Gary has talked about building some sort of organisation, would be interested in being a part of it. Yeah, I guess so. I'd have to hear more, but... Research on deindustrialization. I wouldn't say I've done loads on it. No. Yeah, it's very it's very simple rhetoric, Gary, and I think it does make a sense. You just kind of don't trust those who position themselves as left-wing influencers. They give me an uncomfortable feeling. Ha! Does that include me, Stuart? Hi, by the way. Opinion on Isabella M. Weber's How China Escaped Shock Therapy. I haven't read it. Isabella, another one. I was this close to getting her to chat to me on the channel, but then she sort of stopped replying. I think she's writing another book. Am I actually planning a Hazlitt vid? I think what I would do is make one about libertarian economics in general, but sans soul, which would be, I mean, if you were here at the start of the stream, I was talking about my experience arguing with like Austrians in the early days of the econ blogosphere, 2010 to 2015. And yeah, that would be a general thing, because I don't think Hazlitt's a big enough guy to even devote one whole video to, but he would be the central, because like a degrowth video. My Green New Deal video is kind of degrowth. Few words carry stronger obloquy. Mate, what the fuck is that word?
Interesting word. Let's break it down. Meaning strong public condemnation. Obloquy. A stress on the
Obloquy. Okay, fine. Few words carry stronger obloquy than slumlord. And what is a slumlord? He is not a man who owns expensive property in fashionable neighbourhoods, but one who owns only run-down property in the slums, where the rents are lowest and where payment is most dilatory, erratic, and undependable. It is not easy to imagine why, except for natural wickedness, a man who could afford to own decent rental housing would decide to become a slumlord instead. Maybe. What the fuck? What do you mean it's not easy to imagine why someone would become a slumlord? See, this is the thing about Hazlitt. It's even dumber than Soul. Like, falsified by, like, anyone's experience with landlords ever. Also, like, it's very I suppose it's kind of archaic. I suppose, and it's like, the belief that labour unions can substantially raise real wages over the long run and for the whole working population is one of the great delusions of the present age. This delusion is mainly the result of failure to recognise that wages are basically determined by labour productivity. It is for this reason, for example, that wages in the United States were incomparably higher than wages in England and Germany, all during the decades when the labour movement in the latter two countries was far more advanced. Oh my god, he's literally done a Soul. That is just Soul's argument. Oh my god. Hey, Henry, mate, Henry, buddy. Do you think maybe there was some other stuff going on in those countries than like labour unions and wages? Where's my map? I need my map. Oh, here it is. There you go. Look at other countries. Australia. High wages. Low unemployment. Yeah, ANCAPs and libertarians. It's funny, I don't really fuck with them anymore, but I might do. The $10 word you never heard of. Yeah, it's quite a Russian economy. I mean, I don't know if I'd do that. It's not really the type of video I do. I might mention it in another video, but it's like you're better off with money and macro for that type of thing. He has so many. Polanyi's argument that the law of wages was itself a mistaken lesson from poor laws and not itself a consequence of capitalism per se. God, I wish I could recognize that argument. So, because the law of wages to tend to subsistence, is that what you mean? Captain ANCAP costume like Javier Milei. I remember, well, internet libertarianism just morphed into like Trumpism and fascism, didn't it? Like there aren't that many internet libertarians that are like truly like libertarians. They're just like fucking racists. Yeah. It's crazy. I interviewed a guy who said he was a libertarian until he did MDMA and realized that other people have feelings. That's so funny. So was Polanyi's argument. So I really don't remember this bit of Polanyi. He contains multitudes. Was he saying that the average wages would go below subsistence in absence of the laws? Because I think that's probably true, yeah. You're not allowed to watch until you finish the Soul Part 2, Lady Attis. Wait, guys, just let me get some water. Hey! Hey, do you guys want to see my critiques of my Soul video? I do think more people should take MDMA. That is probably true. I don't know if it would cure fascism. The Mises Institute people have been consistent-ish. Do you think? Are they quite anti... They anti... Trump? Wait, so look. So these are the notes I made about my Soul video. This one, while doing the subtitles, which is obviously like you're looking at it at a level of detail and with attention, and also after it was published, which gives you the sort of post-publish problem. So minor errors. I say chapter 9 when it should be chapter 10, productivity and pay. The dark mode FT article late on where I talk about US GDP is makes it's really hard to read, because dark mode changes the colors of the lines, so the legend is out of whack with so it's weird. It makes it look like it contradicts my point. I say more on that later at 137.57 and don't really return to it. Arguably I do in a kind of ethereal sense, but Wolf of Wall Street video was kind of plonked in, could have been introduced better. The size of remittances, I said this, the size of remittances from immigrants is often a sizable percentage. No, not a good sentence. Urshad Manji article from the Warsong Gulch, I almost said. Bloody hell, I do play WoW. The Wall Street Journal is 2000, I say it's 2009 when it's actually in 2007. Shouldn't say but whatever after I mentioned Soul Part 1, because I then, that doesn't make sense, because I basically continue along the same point. I say small c conservative when really I should say big C. There should be pics of my videos at presumably 250. There's even a mistake in that. But those are less important. Here's the big ones. Wait. So I think I should have put the social mobility stuff by Raj Shetty after the lifetime income stuff to make it flow better, and linked it to the rest of the video. I added those tables, the intergenerational mobility, I added them late because I thought they should be in there. But I don't make it clear that Soul... I don't make it clear enough that Soul just doesn't discuss this. In basic economics and applied economics. He actually does a little bit in wealth, poverty and politics. And I could have included that. Maybe. I mean, his discussion is very unsatisfactory, as always, but... I didn't like where this was. I don't know, though. I don't know. It's not a big deal. There's a bit of Newmark and Vasher that I missed out, where they basically review their debate with Card and Kruger and conclude that they're right. And then I make a joke about it. But I didn't even include... I say it's so sad to review a debate in which you were in and conclude that you were right. But I haven't even mentioned Newmark and Vasher's doing that, which I was supposed to put in, but somehow that slipped through. So I could have, at least I could have left the joke out if I wasn't going to include the whole thing. I don't think I hammered home the point enough, and this was just like that Hazlitt thing we just put in. I don't think I hammered home the point enough about how the minimum wage, the finding about the minimum wage and unemployment is really bad for the idea that labour is paid its productivity. I could have hammered that more, and how like productivity changes with wages. It's if you have higher wages, you sometimes elicit higher productivity. It's not fixed. But also market power, and how companies make lots of profits out of labourers who don't have power. And so it's not like wages or productivity. One type of native. Yeah, Soul says there's no one type of immigrant, which is true. But also there's no one type of native, which I realised was a very neat point that I should have made, right? There's no one type of everyone. And it relates to what I say about like, the death of Econ 101 and how things are heterogeneous and everything's complicated. It does relate to that, but I could have just made that point. I thought that was neat. Someone pointed out to me, one of my patrons pointed out to me, said, Soul's obsessed with individual incomes, right? He has this whole thing where he's like, you'd never use household income, and he's completely wrong. If you order people by individual income in the US, or probably anywhere, I think the median is 0. Because most people aren't working, right? Think about it. Most people are either children, old, out of work temporarily, or out of work permanently. So therefore, why doesn't Soul note this? And the problem for him is that his answer would be, well, the family provides, right, for these people. But then why why focus on individual incomes, right? So I think there's a bit of a trap for him there, which I didn't notice. I mean, I wouldn't have. Yeah, Matt Brunig has noticed this. The start kind of. So the start of the substantive part of the video, 5 minutes in after I finished talking about his photography, I might have, instead of just tearing into reading his chapter, which was okay, I might have framed it around, here's a bunch of stuff that people talk about with inequality, real wages, whether they've stagnated, entry of women into the workforce, and mobility, and kind of signposted those so that it would have been easier to follow. I deleted a bit about migrants being criminals, which would have made the immigrant section flow better. But then I left in a bit where it seems like I referenced that I've said that, almost. So just legacy. It's just like legacy edits and stuff. It's just like the type of thing that gets picked up over time, but you don't have enough time with YouTube videos, and re-recording is so difficult. You love the platform. Oh, thank you. Yeah, a different patron recommended that. How do you think Du Bois would have felt about the Civil Rights Act and how materials of realities of black people in the US evolved afterwards? God, that's a good question. Bloody hell. Were these in the script or just recording flubs? Oh, they were. Yeah, they were in the script. They weren't recording flubs, really. Maybe a couple of them recording. What was I saying? Du Bois, God. I mean, I think there's obviously a through line between him and someone like MLK, right? In terms of their outlook. But it's obviously hard to say. I mean, it's impossible to say. But I think he would have observed how many of the problems are quite similar, right? And despite segregation being formally over, in practice it's not, and discrimination as well. So I think the issues that black people face. I mean, it's weird how current Du Bois feels when you read it. I found that really strange. It's actually pronounced Du Bois. Do I have a favourite right-wing economist? Other than Sol? You know, there are... Yeah. I think... I mean... It really depends what you define as right-wing, right? Because there are people, for instance, like Ludwig von Lachmann. I'm not sure if it's a von. Maybe there's no von. Ludwig Lachmann, who he comes from the Austrian tradition, but very interesting stuff, very reasonable, all works. Israel Kirzner is someone who I would say is quite similar in that regard. Right, like just some very interesting insights, even though they're coming at it from a broadly right-wing pro-capitalist perspective. So those guys. But then like a lot of... I don't think many economists are like Trumpian, right? So we're talking a different type of right-wing. So I don't know... If you would say somebody like Robert Lucas or one of these like Chicago people who made some interesting contributions to academic economics, even though I disagree with their politics and their economics, like outside of the classroom. Like there are plenty of good right-wing economists, right? But then you kind of have to separate the economics from the politics insofar as that's possible. but they'll have methodological contributions, is what I'm saying, at the very least. Outer Wilds this weekend. Yes, I will play Outer Wilds this weekend on Friday. Could you compare how different countries dealt with the privatization of public transportation in Europe? From the looks of it, it seems like services have become worse and costs have gone up. Well, I mean, Germany's having problems with its train system, but they had the €9 train ticket, which was quite a success, right? During COVID. It's absolutely hammering it down out there. Also, my special light went off. Now I have a different light. Brian Kaplan. Oh God, I find Brian Kaplan so annoying, and he knows it. Like he's so annoying, man. I can't say him. David Henderson though, his Econ Log buddy, and Russ Roberts. Actually, yeah, Russ Roberts. Econ Talk, good podcast. If you want an economics podcast that is like is more right wing than what you're used to listening to as a leftist, by a guy that's like completely reasonable and does actually talk to a lot of different people. He's talked to Varoufakis, for instance. That is good. Russ Roberts. Russ Roberts is my answer. Have I ever read anything by Robert Hellbrenner? Yeah, the his History of Thought book, right? The Worldly Philosophers. But ages ago. Ages ago. Did you finish Disco Elysium, and is it the reason why you pronounce Du Bois Dubois? Maybe. I did finish it. Javier Milei. Yeah. Javier Milei is my favourite right-wing economist. I have to say, he has produced better outcomes than I thought he might have, but Argentina is fucked. I think I would make, if I made a Milton Friedman video, which I probably will, I think I would make I would make it a little bit different. I would try and make it more about his lectures and stuff. Kaplan is too sincere to hate him, and pushing back on calculation debate nonsense from Austrians is nice. I don't know. I mean, serial killers are sincere, though, right? I just find him so annoying. I'm sorry. Like, he's like... he just really lacks self-awareness. Sorry. This is now a Brian Kaplan hate stream. Do you want to read this? What are my thoughts on a fully automated scenario managed by horizontal mutual aid networks and revocable delegates beholden to a local consensus for large-scale coordination? It sounds like a nice idea, but it might take up too many evenings. I'm not sure how easy that kind of thing would be to coordinate. It might take up too many evenings, and I don't know if cooperation would be easy to sustain. It depends on the mechanisms that you had, right? But maybe. It's the ideal. My short class autobiography. I grew up in an upper middle class family in a suburb of Los Angeles. My father earned his PhD in electrical engineering from UCLA when I was 5. My mum went to college part-time at CSUN and finished her bachelor's degree in English a few years later. 3 of my 4 grandparents went to college. My paternal grandfather owned his own pharmacy. My maternal grandfather had a law degree, but was employed as a railroad worker. My mum blamed the Depression for her father's failure to find work as a lawyer. Okay, so he's a second-generation academic. Can't get over how much his dad looks like him. My family lived in a nice single-family home with a swimming pool. However, my parents were always frugal. We never bought new cars until I finished high school. Our vacations consisted almost entirely in camping, and my weekly allowance was 5 cents per year of age. Later, I bargained for a raise to 7 cents per year of age. Their fiscal restraint allowed my parents to invest in real estate, buying several homes as rental properties. I went to public school for my entire... This is going somewhere, by the way. I went to public school for my entire K-12 education, with the exception of 4th grade, when my parents put me in a private Greek Orthodox school to avoid being bussed. I was always a good student, and fortunately, my elementary school offered ability tracking beginning in 1st or 2nd grade, if I recall correctly. By junior high, I considered non-ability track classes to be not only a waste of time, but very distressing. The regular kids, as I called them, were generally anti-intellectual and impulsive. There wasn't much physical abuse, but there was a lot of emotional abuse, and the less I saw of the regular kids, the better. Many readers will attribute my school performance and attitudes to my class background, but this is a deep mistake. True, virtually all of the students in my ability groups came from middle-class families, but most of the regular kids were middle-class too, and I always saw my older brother, a mediocre student, as one of the regular kids. Furthermore, both of my parents discouraged my elitist attitudes, but I just ignored them. My friends growing up all came from roughly the same social class as I did. The class background of my friends diversified only after I went to college. My best friend from my undergraduate days at UC Berkeley was the only son of immigrants from Latin America. My best friend from my time as a graduate student at Princeton came from a very poor family in the Poconos. Is that how you say that? Poconos? But our class differences made no difference to us. Our common intellectual interests, values, and sense of humour were the glue of our friendship. Lovely. My childhood... Here we go. This is where it gets good, guys. My childhood would have been much worse if I had grown up poor, but frankly, I doubt that my adult life would have been very different. As long as I had enough to eat, poverty per se wouldn't have bothered me much. But based on my experience with non-ability tracked classes, I would have been friendless and bored out of my mind. I love his vision that he's like in poverty, right? He's like in poverty at a bad school, and he still is too good to speak to his classmates. Like, even in your fantasy, you're alone. These days, perhaps, I could have found solace on the internet at a public school or library. By the time I finished high school, though, there would probably have been plenty of scholarship money available for me. Even if there weren't, I would have been fanatically motivated to put myself through college in order to escape from my origins. Guys, honestly, right, if I had been born a slave, I would have been fanatically motivated to escape my origins as a slave. And I don't think it would have made much difference to my adult life. I probably just would have, succeeded. You could say that growing up poor would have stifled my mental development, but I doubt it. Twin and adoption studies show that childhood environment has little to no long-run effect on IQ. Oh my God. Twin studies are... okay, twin studies have their place, right? But, I don't know... This is old, by the way. This is old. It's just a book. It's not even Twin studies are typically done on middle-class populations, right? You guys realize that. Traditionally, they have been. Twins have a lot in common. I can't remember who it was, that researcher that listed 33 environmental factors that most twins in twin studies share, even though they have different parents. they often like end up living quite close to each other, and they're like, you know what I mean? They're adopted by middle class parents. Like, anyway, you could say that growing up poor would have changed my attitudes, but I'm a difficult person to mold. I'm an atheist despite 16 years of my mother's Catholic indoctrination. Oh, God. It's so rare for like a guy of this type, like a white guy of his age, to be an atheist. That's so... God, he so hasn't been molded by circumstance. If anything, I think that growing up poor would have made me more elitist than I already am. Just as growing up Catholic made me more impious. Okay, well, okay, I'll give him that one. He would have been a prick no matter where he'd grown up. This is where it gets. I think this is even better. Even when there's a differences in environment with twins, the prenatal environment is the same. Yeah. Twin heritability models tell you what you want to hear. Ah! Sorry, chat was getting away from me then. It's amazing how open he is about... Like, this is somebody who is so insulated from anything outside of his own privileged experience that he cannot comprehend how his life would have been different. Poverty does impede cognitive function, among other things. Like, imagine if you'd grown up with a fucking alcoholic mum and like no dad, right? Like in a council estate, in a slum, ghetto, whatever, right? Not being able to eat. Because, by the way, what's his definition of poverty that includes being able to eat? Like around violence and crime. This guy thinks that would have no effect. He's got a real Neil Breen vibe. Yeah. I would have grown up rich and strong. I am the strongest man. That's such a good shout. He's so Neil Breen. For my adult life, still gets better. For my adult life to have been radically different, I would probably have needed to grow up in an absolutely poor family in the third world. Not a relatively poor family in the first world. That, mate, this guy needs to learn about poverty in the USA. Fuck me. It's comparable in some cases. My instinct in that situation would be to learn English and migrate to the US, but immigration restrictions would get in the way. This realization is part of the reason I have so much more sympathy for immigrants than I do for low-skilled Americans. Okay, so there's a nub of empathy in here, but again, it's phrased in this like absolutely absurd teleological way. So, my instinct in this situation would be to learn English and migrate to the US, but immigration restrictions would get in the way. This realization is part of the reason I have so much more sympathy for immigrants than I do for low-skilled Americans. Again, like, you know, my inclination, were I born a slave, would have been to escape slavery. This realization is part of the reason I have so much more sympathy for slaves. It's like, what? Like, can't you just have sympathy anyway? Apart from everything else. But essentially, I don't think there is a scenario you could put before this man where he doesn't end up in exactly the same place that he's ended up. So it's like, what, you know, Brian, Professor Kaplan, what if you'd been born like with a bomb like attached to you and you can't remove it, and every time you say the word it goes off and kills you? Been like, my inclination would have been to just not say the word "the" and end up as an economics professor at George Mason University. That's probably why I empathize more with people who have a stutter. What if I had grown up rich? Again, I doubt it would have changed much. I mean, your dad had a PhD and you owned several homes and rented them out. Not poor, not even, solidly middle class. I would have gone to the Ivy League instead of UC Berkeley, but it's not like Berkeley helped me back. Okay, whoa, this is really interesting, right? Wait a second here. He's saying that growing up richer than he did would have improved his station. And yet, so there's him, and from here, there's him, there's super rich, right? Then there's like lower class, working class, third world, as he calls it. He's saying going from here to here would have got him into the Ivy League. So his income and position, socioeconomic status, held him back in this case. Or didn't, well, he says it didn't, Berkeley didn't hold him back, but it held him back from going to the Ivy League. Right? But then once you go down, anyone below him in the socioeconomic hierarchy is just not working hard enough. And he would have got out of that easily. It wouldn't have held him back. So it's an interesting taxonomy. The gap between the upper middle class and the rich is actually, it's the most important. It's the only place where there's a socioeconomic gradient. If I was born on Mars, I'd just swim to Earth. I literally if he's so damn good at adjusting to any circumstance, why isn't he a billionaire president? So it's just perhaps I would have been less ambitious if I came from a rich family, but who knows? Who knows indeed, Brian? From what I've seen, the standard function of class autobiography is to make middle and upper class authors feel guilty and the working class authors feel resentful. But reflecting on my class history doesn't make me feel guilty. Rather, it confirms the common sense view that in the long run, differences in ability and character are the cause of class differences, not the other way round. Scoff if you must, smiley face. Well, I will. So, I don't think this confirms jack shit, because it is literally you masturbating over your own abilities. And also, you're at GMU, I'm sorry, what? Who gives a fuck, man? He's a professor at GMU, at George Mason University. He's a libertarian. This doesn't confirm anything. You didn't confirm anything. How can you say you confirmed anything? There's no control group. There's no comparison. There's no comparative analysis here. You've just made stuff up. When I reflect on physics, it simply confirms the common sense view that were I to pedal hard enough, I would in fact fly up into the air. And you can tell that because I've just told you that if I pedal hard enough, I will in fact fly up into the air. Again, this is why he's the goat. He's transparently an antisocial, anti-human freak, while others try to hide it. I mean, I do. You know what? I can give you that point. I do acknowledge this has been very entertaining. This has been very entertaining. Oh God, that did feel a bit If Books Could Kill, didn't it? My very aggressively snarky reading of his his biography. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Shall I tell you what book I read? Actually, for my own book. Tim Ferriss, 4 Hour Workweek. And what was really interesting about that, right? So If Books Could Kill did a review of that, the 4 Hour Workweek. And look, those guys are super smart, and I love that. It's my favorite podcast, right? They're super smart, but they're snarky, and sometimes when they touch some of this more detailed academic stuff and science and stuff, I'm like, no, I don't think you quite actually know what you're talking about. And they're not that charitable. They sort of pick and choose when they're going to be charitable. Sometimes they are. They were to Thomas Frank, but and Tom Nicholas also did a video that was about, I can't remember, but it heavily referenced Tim Ferriss, the 4 Hour Workweek. And I was going in, I was like, look, clearly it's these guys, especially If Books Could Kill, but maybe Tom Nicholas are being too mean about Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Workweek. Oh, how wrong I was. That book is awful. it's like so one second. There's a bit where he's like, he says he like won a fucking some kind of Chinese martial arts competition by cheating. His like things like he cheated in the competition, and that's one of his achievements. Kickboxing. Sorry, it wasn't even a Chinese martial art, it was just kickboxing. Right, so this book will teach you the precise principles I have used to become the following. Princeton University guest lecturer in high-tech entrepreneurship. Okay, so you gave one lecture at Princeton. First American in history to hold a Guinness World Record in tango. Okay, well, as everybody knows, you buy Guinness World Records. They're PR stunts. Advisor to more than 30 world record holders in professional and Olympic sports. Again, this is just his bullshit industry. Wired Magazine's greatest self-promoter of 2008. Like this is feeding on the book, right? It's like, I'm so good at self-promotion that I won greatest self-promoter, and I'm going to put this in this book promoting myself. National Chinese kickboxing champion, that's the one where he cheated. Horseback ultra Yabusame in Nikko, Japan. I think he cheated there too. Political asylum researcher and activist. The only one that sounds good, but like I can tell you he hasn't done shit for fucking asylum seekers. That just means that he like effectively decided that he wanted to do something like that. MTV breakdancer in Taiwan. Like what the fuck? Anyone can do that. Did you see the breakdancing Australian breakdancer at the Olympics? She shouldn't put that on her CV, and neither should he. Hurling competitor in Ireland. Again, you're just competing in sporting events. Actor on hit TV series in mainland China and Hong Kong. Like, this is his list of achievements. It's like a combination of just like stuff that he paid for, very minor things, stuff he's like lied about or cheated in, stuff that anyone could do. He played hurling. Right, 2008 self-promoter. Jesus. Like, no, but I'm not even kidding, right? This book culminates in him. So he gets other people to write. One of his big things, right, is hire loads of personal assistants from like India, right, and pay them fuck all, and they do all your work for you. He gets some of them, at least one of them, maybe more, to write parts of the book for him. And then he says, at the end, towards the end, he's like, hey, one of the best ways to like get rich and get a 4-hour work week is to write books on topics that you don't really know about and get other people to write them. And it's like, oh my God, you are literally taking the piss out of me for reading the book. I mean, again, I kind of respect it, right? It's so blatant. Oh, Bill Cosby quote. Civilization had too many rules for me, so I did my best to rewrite them. Bill Cosby. So, you know, you can't see the Bill Cosby, I think, guys, but that's who wrote it. These books are amazing, aren't they? But there's one bit where he talks about... He talks about, like, being stared at by Chinese, because he cheats in the I don't think it's on here, but he cheats in the kickboxing tournament. He like bends the rules basically, and everyone's like, you're being a dick, and he's like, a dozen Chinese were staring at me, and like, yeah, it's so bad, the 4-hour work week. He really is bad, and I thought that he didn't get enough opprobrium from If Books Could Kill or Tom Nicholas. Endogenous money video. Someone like, why don't I talk about what Israel is doing? What, ethnic cleansing? I don't know. I'm just not really an expert on like foreign policy or anything, so I like to stay in my lane. But I certainly don't think it's right. I think it's a awful crime. And I'm really worried about what's going to happen now that Trump's in. Because all pretense will be dropped. I need to watch Folding Ideas' new video. I started watching it the other day, and I thought, I forget how good their videos are, and I was like, no, I'm not paying enough attention to watch this now. It's literally about getting other people to write books for you. What rule did he bend in kickboxing? Well, let's Google it. On push it, he focused on pushing. Oh, he did. So he did dehydration on the weigh-ins and rehydration, so he was much bigger than the people he was fighting. So he was much heavier, then he just pushed people off. He just pushed people off. So yeah, he ended up in above his weight class, and then he was just pushing people off. So he didn't actually do any kicking or boxing. Folding Ideas is amazing. That's just... People sometimes call YouTube videos amateur documentaries, right? They're not amateur documentaries. They're just documentaries. Who are you talking about? She cheated. Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week is the big. I don't know who you're talking about. She. Do you guys? I'll tell you what. The only other big YouTube channel from the UK, economics YouTube channel from the UK, is Damien Talks Money. Have you guys followed Damien Talks Money? Because you should if you don't. He's much more... So I think he's much more micro. He's like... And much more like intertwined with like personal financial advice. So like how things will affect you. If you're outside of the UK, it's probably less useful, but I'm sure there's still stuff. There definitely is still stuff in there for you. But more like here's how Keir Starmer's policies will affect you. Like savings accounts and stuff. I find him really, really useful, really good, and very different to like me or Gary. On the Argentina guy, I mean, I made a video on my second channel. Well, it was a live stream originally where I was just reading through one of his book chapters, and it was literally like incomprehensible. It was awful, but. In terms of Argentina, I kind of want to wait and see what... I was thinking about discussing it in Seoul Part 3, but I kind of want to see what happens, because I don't... He's had some short-term wins, I think. Partly because I just think the Argentinian state was that bloated and inefficient that... yeah. Damage control Trump's economic policies. On an individual level or on a political level? I mean, look, man, I do think that assets are going to continue to do well. So I would like, if I had money, I would put it into assets. I don't, so I don't. But I think that's the sad truth of someone like Trump. I think the stock market will do pretty well. You know, obviously there's been the AI crash, but that was coming. Homelessness has gone up. Yeah. I mean, I think that I'm not sure Hazlitt stating that the neoclassical theory of the labour market doesn't require a supply curve is a slight imprecision, Gianni. Unlearning Economics 2017. I was so different before I started my YouTube channel. It's quite funny. I was much more in theory and stuff for a start, but I was also just like much more aggressive. I did speak to Richard Murphy. He's on the podcast. Housing is now cheaper. I did see it. There was a reduction in rents, but like, there's been a lot of pain. What I'm saying is that Milei wasn't as bad as I thought he might be. So far. But, you know, people have said that Argentina's been saved. People have said, like, you get all these videos now, like TLDR News did one, and like, I get their MO. It's fine, right? They're doing current affairs. They're making short explainers, what's going on now, what seems to be happening. Well, you don't rely on them for like serious analysis, but you get so much of this like he saved Argentina. It's like, no, people have said that Argentina had been saved before. It always ends up going back to being fucked. It's too soon. Thanks, comment, for joining. Well, stocks will do well. Rich people's yacht money. Yeah, all of that kind of stuff will do well. TLDR was incredibly short-sighted for Argentina. Yeah. I think they don't. Daniel Kuhn. Yeah. I have thought about that. I should... You know, my eternal struggle, and I have said this before on stream, is just whether I... like contacting women and people of color and anyone who isn't simply a middle class white man, just to get the balance and stop it from becoming a boys' club, because that does happen very quickly. And that's what happened at the start of my podcast. I was like, whoa, I've just interviewed like 10 men in a row without even thinking. Partly because of my own biases, partly because the economics profession is biased. There aren't as many women, and women tend to be busier as well. So all that is to say, I have a long list of people that I want to interview. Most of them are men. I try to Daniel is certainly one of them, about the history of thought or whatever. But I really want to interview a few women before. All the people who are super mad about the Keynes long run quote are so happy about Milei in the short run. Ha! That's interesting. That is interesting, yeah. Because they're often talking about long run effects. And I think had the shock therapy had more direct detrimental effects in the short term, they would be saying just wait. Marjorie Kelly. I don't know who she is. Do I not know who she is? You know who I contacted was Kitty Richards. Marjorie, sorry. Marjorie Kelly. Is Marjorie. Wealth supremacy. Interesting. Ah. Yeah. Okay. She looks good. Oh, I'm not showing you my screen, but it's fine. Marjorie Kelly. She looks good. If I had money, would I really just buy a house, or would I buy stocks and stuff? I mean, it depends how much money. You need a lot of money to buy a house. So I'd probably go with a stock. I tend to agree with mandated retirement contributions. As a behavioural economist, I don't think people contribute enough to their retirement. But it's... I mean, I want social insurance, right? So I want taxes to fund pensions. I'm fine with a pay-as-you-go system where current taxes fund current pensions. That's what I want. Power and Progress. Yeah, I've got Power and Progress somewhere in here. I think it's good. It's really good. I read it in first year as part of my... I did a history module. We didn't read it in economics. Power and Progress. Oh, no, sorry. Sorry. I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking of Power and Plenty. I'm thinking of this. I was going to say, I didn't think this won the Economics Nobel by Finlay and O'Rourke. No, Power and Progress I haven't read. I haven't really read that much by Acemoglu, actually, I have to say. I could buy a house after a few years of being a right-wing grifter. Yeah. You know, I could go right. I could go right. I wonder what would happen. No, it wouldn't work for me. I don't think it'd work for me. I'd lose all my patrons. My channel would go dead. I'd lose subscribers. Yeah, Wendy Carlin would be. Yeah, I wonder if I could speak to her. She's a bit old now. No offense to her. But when I've met her, like, and speaking to her now, I was just like, oh, you're like, she doesn't seem that... Maybe she was like ill or something, but she seemed really uncommunicative. You're a woke conservative and you make no money. Should I go right? Yeah, who else will double their patronage if I go right wing? Come on. Come on, everybody. Have I ever seen a study paper or article and realise, hey, I went to class with that person? Yes. Yeah, I have done. I have. Or like, yeah. Not class. More like they were at my uni. I haven't got it in me to lie. I'm literally so bad at lying. I'm terrible at lying. I don't understand. Like, I don't get it on a like personal level, because I know that a lot of these grifters are lying. Like, I know there's no way they believe, like, and the about faces they do, the sudden changes, like, you know, they're being paid off. Like Tim Pool is a really good example, right? He was funded by Russia, right? And to be so inconsistent and aggressively stupid in your takes is mental. The US flag's still there. Yeah, mate, the US flag will be here forever. Economics Explained, yeah. I mean, he went down the bad route, right? I mean, what's he saying these days? Money and Macro had some really good... Economics Freshman Course Unit 1 Part 1. Farming Explained is doing a stream. How Massachusetts became the richest state in the USA. How Europe sabotaged its own economy. 2024.
The European Union, as well as other closely integrated European countries, collectively make up the second largest economy in the world, only really falling behind the USA. Germany alone is now the third largest economy in the world after overtaking a stagnant Japan, and the continent is overwhelmingly made up of high-income, advanced economies with great living standards. But a lot of economists are very, very worried about Europe's future. So what is going on here? Europe has fallen well behind the USA in terms of raw economic output as the continent closes in on almost 2 decades of relative stagnation. Now, to be fair, even though the USA is the most logical comparison as a high-income economic superpower, almost every country in the world has performed poorly compared to the Yanks over the last half-decade, including lower-income economies which should...
That doesn't seem so bad, actually. Kind of basic. What you're saying is basically true. And I've realised that you couldn't see my screen. Sorry, guys. I'm such a competent streamer. I'm so good at my job. Please subscribe and join my Patreon. It's fine. It's simple, right? It's simple, right? Like, simple stuff with like a narrative attached that's like, I don't know. It's just a story, isn't it? I think Economics Explained. Any advice on getting through Polanyi's Great Transformation? Oh, do it with a reading group. That's what I did. I couldn't. No, yeah. Do it with a reading group who are dedicated one chapter at a time over, what, half a year? Oh, the horizontalist structuralist debate about money. Fuck me. My recollection just isn't good enough to answer that question at the moment. It's something I'd like to look at. I do remember reviewing that whole debate. I can't remember coming down on one clear side. There were those leaked documents about Tim Pool and Russia, right? Like, well, I mean, among others, it wasn't just him. Russian disinformation campaign. I mean, yeah. It's believable. It would explain like the just utter inconsistency that they have, I think. Yeah, the horizontal, yeah, all of that it's so detailed, that stuff. I can't, yeah. Econ Explained has a really strong thumbnail game. That is true. Not as strong as mine. Yeah, I think the Ukraine thing is probably the biggest one though, right? Like I think you have seen a lot of these people in that kind of what they might call the heterodox sphere, that's like their takes on Ukraine seem kind of strange, because I mean, on the one hand they're fucking authoritarians, right? So might makes right, but on the other hand, they are supposed to be like kind of American conservatives, so you would think they might follow in the neocon tradition of being like really anti-Russia. Getting paid $500,000 a month to post on a channel that got a couple of thousand views. What is that? How many, Tim?
Reported crime.
I mean, this is crazy, right? Look at this. 1.4 million subscribers. Look at his videos, dude. 8.8 thousand views. 11,000 views. 4.9 thousand. 53,000. That's what... 202,000. That's his most viewed one.
reported crime is down because majority of the large city police agencies have stopped sending us their data.
Right. We've redefined crime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good God. Look at these shorts. These have barely got any views as well. Tim Cut, mate, why has he got so many fucking channels as well? To be fair, there are a few more views here. But like still, relative to his subscriber count, right? Channels of that size get tens of millions if they're on the right, while similar sized channels get like hundreds of thousands if they're on the left. It's like, it does... Look, did you guys, any of you catch that video that was maybe a month or two ago about, it was called like the Troll Industrial Complex Just Stop Caring. I am begging you to stop caring. The Troll Industrial Complex. And I think just like how much attention people pay to these guys. And obviously they do, there are real impacts, right, on people. And some of these debates are important to have, and it's important to defend rights of trans people, for instance, and immigrants. But it is interesting when you contrast how well known someone like Tim Pool is, how many subscribers he has on YouTube, and how viral some clips of him go. If you contrast that presence with like his actual channel performance and how much of a significant influence his channel really is, right? Like when Tim Pool releases a video, it's not like, oh, wake up, babe, new Tim Pool just dropped, right? Like the guy's a fucking idiot. He doesn't have anything interesting to say. So there is an element of like, we need to stop caring. And like when you, and like Fresh and Fit as well, like don't they, are they like pedos as well, or? But like they're, look, 1.5 million. Why modern women are more privileged than men? 14k view, like, you know what I mean? They don't have a fan base. They don't have a core audience, right? Even like I have a stronger core audience than these guys, and my channel's what, an eighth of the size in terms of subscriber count, probably less, even less if you consider like kind of cultural impact. People know who Fresh and Fit are, like random people don't know who I am, right? Nobody watches these fucking guys. Like, it's really mad. So there is just an element of we do need to stop caring. The US flag in the background. Well, it's from my video. His best vid has a 731k views. Right, that's worse than mine. Timcast does seem to have a bit more, to be fair. But it's still, it's low, right? If you've got over 1.5 million subscribers, even Timcast, 1.6 million. Clickbait stuff. I mean, there are lots of videos, right? There's several a day. Fucking hell. I can't imagine watching this. I mean, it's amazing that 200,000 people watch it anyway. There's a bit of a boost since Trump's inauguration, if I'm viewing this correctly. But, like, it's still a fraction of his subscriber count. It's an environment artificially inflated by billionaire money. That's also true, yeah. I think I've seen them F and F because doesn't Destiny debate them? Hasn't Destiny been on there and he's like kind of debated them and shit? The right only shadowbox random Twitter ghouls, never engage with real leftists, so why we should ever acknowledge their antics, just don't. Yeah, exactly. This is crazy. Dave Rubin as well. Like what's Dave Rubin up to? Like, these guys are so uninteresting. The Rubin Report, 2.7 million subscribers. WF's crowd's jaws drop as Javier Milei roasts them to their faces. So again, you're looking, some of these are doing all right. 700,000, 500,000. Elon smear debunked. One of them's got 19,000 views. That's mad. But he's got more views, but his subscriber count's also big. Like, as a fraction, it's probably similar. Hassan dwarfs these people in numbers, but is for sure less known too, yeah. How do you feel the hole? Well, I don't know. What filled the hole?
Millionaires pay to algo boost creators who help support their interests, and that's why crap right-wing creators end up in everyone's feed. Poverty tourism guys, too.
Yeah, completely agree. That poverty tourism stuff is terrible. But yeah, like even the Thomas Sowell documentary, what is it? Common Sense in a Senseless World or something. This was advertised, right? That appeared in everyone's feed mysteriously. Yeah. So it does get promoted, that stuff. I should wear a beanie like a South Park character, yeah. I do have a beanie, but I get quite hot, so I probably wouldn't wear it on stream. Random people sometimes do know who you are. A friend recommended your first Solvid on their IG story and said it totally changed their mind. Oh, that's nice. I've been recognized like 5 times in my life. Knowingly. There was one time where I'm pretty sure a guy was trying to take a picture of me on the train, but he might not have been, and it could have even been for a different reason. Like that I just look really stupid. And he was sending it to all his friends going, haha, look how stupid this guy looks. I'm taking a picture of him because he looks so stupid. Oh, for fuck's sake, yeah, the streams, the chat stopped refreshing again. I'm glad Destiny went down. He was actually platforming and keeping those channels alive. He was the ultimate troll and drama farming channel. Has Destiny gone down? I mean, he's still up, right? Wait, what? No, he's here.
The trans athlete.
Ah. Jesus Christ, his voice cuts through me like a knife through hot butter. I mean, I'd say Destiny, just to compare, has similar hits to Timcast or even Dave Rubin, and he's about half the size of Timcast and about a third of the size of Dave Rubin subscriber-wise. It's like active subscribers, right? Like the actual community you have. But he's not stopped, yeah. He's not stopped posting. But I know what happened with him. He was, yeah, a revenge porn cat. I know about the revenge porn. I mean, obviously he's a horrible person, right? Like, you know, I don't... This is just the same conversation we were having before. Like, the internet ecosystem is the only place these guys could fucking survive. But he will be fine as well. That is also true. He'll be fine. Yeah, I didn't look into this too much, but I heard about it. I think actually a real life friend told me about it. The Matt Avatar and music. Oh yeah. His community is very cultish and they're very cynical, nihilist, trolley type. Yeah, I think they're. I don't really like. I don't really like them. They're very toxic when I interacted with them. I found, and it's just like, it's literally impossible to like interact with a community that large and aggressive. Like, you just can't. Like, it's just, there's nothing you can do. What did Destiny do aside from the revenge porn? Oh, I mean, he's just an arsehole, right? I mean, it's like obvious. And just like insults people and is really horrible and mean. I mean, I've seen him do... The thing that springs to mind was that thing that went quite viral where I think he tweeted at a Trump supporter like, you know, if Trump wins, then you die in the street. So that suits me or something. And it's like, you can laugh at that if you like laughing at things like that, but I don't know. I just think it's really childish. Quite nasty. They made some really bad responses to your housing vid, very confused, yeah. And my Econ 101 video as well, he tried to like debunk it in a live react, and it's like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, why would you pretend to be an economist? Sorry, ran out of breath there. Drama is literally the only way some people stay relevant. Politics is second, yeah. I think it's true. And it's part, you know, the Thomas Sowell stuff, right? Like, I do want to get out of it, and like, I have lots of videos that aren't drama, I mean, it's not, there's a difference between a response and drama, right? But I do want to get out of it. I don't like him on Israel either, Destiny. I don't think, yeah. I don't agree with him on Israel at all. But I think it's like, with someone like, again, it's the troll industrial complex, right? It's like, God, I've got like hay fever, even though it's not summer. It's like the only way to combat it really is to ignore it, because you like, even when they lose, they win, right? Because they get attention. And that's what they want. They purely want attention. Not Thomas Sowell, I mean Destiny. Entertaining ourselves to death. Yeah, I've heard of that. It is interesting, isn't it? Like that kind of... Yeah, form. I mean, it's an interesting one to reflect on, being a YouTuber. In defending marginalism in the debate with the crank Marxist, he denied the existence of long-run equilibrium prices. Actually knows basically nothing. What's part 3 about? I think... So Sowell has this whole thing about intellectuals, right? So there's all this stuff about like knowledge, markets, expertise, the state, and intellectuals, and that's what I wanna cover. Speculation economy and why did the AI market collapse? Yeah, I don't know. My videos aren't that current, right? They're not like... I mean, they are and they aren't. I do want to do more videos on solutions. That's definitely something that I want to do more. Like, there's that one on worker democracy, which I thought was pretty good. Actually, it's one of my favorite videos I did, but I want to do more on that. And there was the one on free stuff, right? Which is basically about the welfare state. But also, there's more, right? There's stuff like communal stuff, anarchist stuff. There's stuff about like taxes and how to use taxes, just like I mean, I could go into more detail on like housing policy solutions. There's so much, like. You know, one of the interesting things, to bring it back round to Brian Kaplan, whose biography we read, autobiography, I should say. He did actually write a really interesting critique of one of Thomas Sowell's books about the Anointed. Was it The Vision of the Anointed? Where he basically says Thomas Sowell splits people into the anointed and the not anointed. The anointed think that they can make the world better with interventions, and the non-anointed think they can't. And Kaplan just critiques it as basically a meaningless distinction that doesn't really fall along. It doesn't really like categorize typical political positions very well, because conservatives do think of intervening and stuff. Gert Rutten. I don't think I've read Gert Rutten on Workplace Democracy. Interesting. Yeah, I much rather just make videos about like if I had my way, I would make like just specific targeted videos about solutions, right? And they'd still be fun, but they wouldn't be as polemical. But you do have to use something like Thomas Sowell sometimes to get people's attention, and then you make the constructive point. Renaissance Technologies of the Medallion Fund. I don't know about that. I mean, it's like a very specific thing to know about. The Renaissance Technologies is an American hedge fund which specializes in systematic trading using quantitative models derived from... This isn't what... Mostly for fund employees, is famous for the best track record on Wall Street. So what? It's like it's member owned, so in that sense it's kind of co-op-y, but obviously it is also extremely capitalist. That's pretty crazy. Fund's worst year was a 21% gain after subtracting fees. Medallion reaped a 98.2% gain in 2008. The year Standard & Poor's 500 index lost 38.5%. Man, these guys are crazy. I need to put my money into this fund. Interesting. Yeah. I think it's that's pretty mad. Those returns are mad. Robin Hannell. I haven't read Robin Hannell either, actually. Yeah, there's Paricon as well. There's all that stuff. Is that Freakonomics you see in my shelf under my lamp? Can you actually see that? Oh yeah. Super Freakonomics is what it is. Hey. So this is what my next video is about, guys. It won't be Soul Part 3. Soul Part 3 might be after it, or maybe even later. Maybe I'll take a break from Soul. But the good thing about me being full-time now is that the Freakonomics script is already written, and we are recording next week. So hopefully it will only be out March. Yeah, Robin Hannell, I would love to do it. I would love to engage with his work more. It's very important to note that the Medallion Fund uses a lot of leverage and targets market segments which aren't scalable. That's a big part of why they don't let people buy in. Interesting. Feasible for the government to give 10k to families per year per kid that could perform certain tasks at grade level. I mean, I don't know why you'd make it conditional. What if you got like a kid with a disability that can't perform the tasks? But something like that, I'm happy to. Stop making the so bad joke, everyone. No, keep making it. Weird how they're, yeah. I think I'll probably make a video on Marxism eventually, but that's a long-term project, right? I need to speak to Victor Margarino as well. I keep not speaking to him when I say I'm going to. Yeah. I'm not in academia anymore. No, I mean I'm affiliated, but I'm affiliated with LSE, but I'm not like in academia. And I'm writing papers and stuff. In my on Friday I have half a day of working on academic stuff, and that's like my day of that. The rest of it is YouTube channel and book. But the book's finished now, so just YouTube channel really. Honorary lecturer. Visiting fellow. But the Freakonomics vid's going to be fun, guys. Like, those guys, it's so dodgy. You know, I was just talking about Tim Ferriss and, like, the racial attitudes. Some of the stuff on black naming, like what African Americans specifically name their kids in Freakonomics, is just awful. Wait a second, I'll show you. So it's just interesting when you get these time capsules. So because the same stuff comes up again and again. A girl named Shithead. Okay, so the context is that apparently among the many crazy things that African Americans do, according to Levitt and Dubner, naming their child Shithead. So there's this whole thing about black names. Names like Tempest and Amcha or whatever. Crazy names. Oh my god, it's crazy. But there's this footnote that I read where they note that there's this woman phoned into a radio show to Roland Fryer, who's like this black academic economist who's quite famous. But he's a bit of a Solian in the way he sort of tends to frame issues of race as not necessarily the result of discrimination. Although he is more rigorous than Sol, let's say. Anyway, he was on a radio show talking about black names, and a woman called in and said that her niece had been called Shithead. Pronounced Shitteed, I think, apparently. So they note that among their many anecdotes, including one that they admitted was an urban legend, where they were like, black people named a black family named their children orange jello and lemon jello, and then it just turned out not to be true. Anyway, the woman who called the radio show to tell Roland Fryer about her niece Shithead might have been misinformed, of course, or even outright lying. It's like, okay, so why report it if you think that it might not be true? Regardless, she was hardly alone in her feeling that black names sometimes go too far. Bill Cosby, during a speech in May 2004 at the NAACP's Brown vs. Board of Education 50th anniversary gala, lambasted lower-income blacks for a variety of self-destructive behaviours, including the giving of ghetto names. Cosby was summarily excoriated by white and black critics alike. So, they've noted that their anecdote might be wrong, And then they've used Bill Cosby saying that black names have gone too far as evidence for the idea that black names have gone too far. Bill Cosby, don't know, like, could be a good spokesperson for the community, maybe not. Cosby was summarily excoriated by white and black critics alike. It's like, what did they say? What did they say? Was he wrong? There's literally a woman who did a PhD on teachers' reactions to black names. Her name is Dr. Marijuana Pepsi Van Dyke. I watched a good video on black names actually recently. Soon after, this is where it gets good. Soon after, the California Education Secretary, Richard Riordan, the wealthy, white, former mayor of Los Angeles, found himself under attack for a perceived racial slight. Riordan, visiting a Santa Barbara library to promote a reading program, met a 6-year-old girl named Isis. She told Riordan that her name meant Egyptian princess. Riordan, trying to make a joke, replied, "It means stupid, dirty girl." The resultant outrage led black activists to call for Riordan's resignation. Mervyn Dimmerly, a black assemblyman from Compton, explained that Isis was a little African-American girl. Would he have done that to a white girl? As it turned out, however, Isis was white. Some activists tried to keep the anti-Riordan protest alive, but Isis's mother, Trinity, encouraged everyone to relax. Her daughter, she explained, hadn't taken Riordan's joke seriously. "I got the impression," Trinity said, "that she didn't think he was very bright." Okay, fair enough. But, so, just as a reminder, right? We are talking about black names going too far. This doesn't have anything to do with it. This is the story of a really old mayor telling a 6-year-old girl that she was a stupid, dirty girl, and they don't seem to comment on that. And then their whole thing is like, oh, look at all these activists going crazy, but they got it wrong. But it's like, this doesn't even have anything to do with your original thesis. How did this footnote have Bill Cosby and the word ISIS in it? Substitute teacher. I think I've seen that actually. I think Soul and Charles Murray have more in common than not than Soul, though Soul did once soft critique Murray. Yeah. I mean, he'll always, the left will always be to blame, of course, for Soul, even when he says things that are right. But like, this is in Freakonomics. This is Freakonomics, guys. Like, what? Like, what is wrong with they're just like, and their whole thing, they don't understand anything outside of their experience. This is the Brian Kaplan problem. They're just like, everything else is wacky and freak-ish, dare I say, right? And they're just like, know absolutely nothing about race. And nothing in this footnote proves their point that black names have gone too far. ISIS is a perfectly fine name. Yeah. The only way... Is the implication that ISIS or Trinity aren't perfectly fine names? I don't know. And also, Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, it's really interesting. He pops up among the anti-PC quite a lot. Right? So you do see that with a certain genre of person who's anti-PC or anti-PC adjacent 20 years ago, you get Bill Cosby references, right? Like what is it? Approving Bill Cosby references. Oh yeah, I should look at their textbook. Wait, so the examples of black names going too far are a radio call which they admit themselves might be made up in the name of a white girl. Yes. Well, they have other examples in the main text, I should say. But, it's stupid. Like, so, yeah. So one of them is made up. The other, one of them they admit might be made up. Another they later had to admit was made up. Another, so the first four they introduce are Winner. So there was a family who named their two kids, brothers, Winner and Loser. And they opened the chapter with this thing about Winner and Loser. And how Winner actually ended up doing well in life, badly in life, and Loser ended up doing well. Now that is really bad parenting. Let's just be clear. Don't call your kids Winner and Loser as an experiment. That's horrible, right? And another is called Tempest, which they have a go at her because it's a misspelled. No, sorry, Temptress, which is a misspelled version of Tempest, and they have a go at her for spelling it wrong. But I don't really see what's wrong with it. And then Amcha, like AMC shape. And then they have a go at that, and it's like I don't know what the problem is, but they're all black names, right? So they start having a go at them for that, and they say, is it about black culture? And they go into this whole thing about names, but their examples are pretty bad, and some of them are almost certainly urban myths. But yeah, this is like entire passage is like something someone would say at a bar, incoherent and purposefully stripping each example of their detail and meaning. Yeah, I know. It's wacky. The chapter on race in Freakonomics, honestly, guys, read it. It's awful. But then, well, there's multiple chapters on race, technically, because they mention the KKK as well. And they do this whole thing where they try and sanitize the KKK a bit. It's really weird. They're so biased. Yeah. But that's just one of the things. They also got into a whole thing about climate change in Super Freakonomics. Their climate change chapter was terrible. Yeah, Connor's a ridiculous name. Right. That's enough time. We've had a good show. I've really enjoyed this. But I need to go because I have football, guys. I have the football or soccer. Oh yeah, let's summarily take down the American flag. Yeah, in the later part they say that names don't affect outcomes, so then why do they care about so much what people name their kids? Yeah, because the names chapter of Freakonomics is incoherent. Well spotted. All right. Boo USA, we hate the US.